Sorry about that, y'all. We coming back.
He's in training.
Yeah, I think we back up now.
Yeah, we up, but he's
Okay.
off.
Yeah, but the stream ended. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I want everybody to know we back up now. Sorry about
Okay.
that. Let me go on here and let them know. So anyway, Doc, so let's just keep talking about what you were talking about
Sure.
till everybody comes back in because I don't know what happened with him. I heard the bleep and I was like, okay, what was that? Okay, so they're coming back on.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me put a message out here and let them know that we're back. Okay, you keep talking, Doc.
Oh, okay.
They'll be back on.
So,
Okay.
okay. So, as far as that concerned, like I said, she took everybody's phone and, and they were all looking at us like, like we said, that's just the rule at our home. And I know that's difficult because, we live in a society that it just seems like the overwhelming push is that this is the new norm. And the push against the new norm is almost like you're being old fashioned. But if we're not protecting our kids, we're going to lose them.
True.
Yeah, we're here, Valton. We can hear you, Valton. Yes, sir.
I think you had your mouse still accidentally hovering over the end stream and you ended the stream. You got it went off, yeah. So I'm letting them know we back on. Yeah, that's okay.
No. This is your one and only.
Well, look, hopefully everybody's gonna come back and join this stream. I told them we're back, so let's hope they come back in. We lost our audience. I thought you was going out, but then I said, oh my God, he's ended the stream. So anyway, keep talking.
All right.
That's
So
life.
basically, yeah, it is. And
Y'all
so,
don't you look, you have increased my anxiety.
but see, here's the thing. That's automatic because of
Yeah.
what it represents. And so this is where the whole issue of how do we deal with anxiety, the normal anxieties that's going to come with life. Because if we don't address it, then our limbic system is going to get in automatic response mode. So part of the
Yeah.
things what I try to teach my clients is you have to acknowledge that thing that you because your body
Hmm.
is responding to it, whether or not you want to be honest about it or not. And the more you
Yeah.
ignore it, the more it just builds. You see what I'm saying? And
Gotcha.
so when we talk about anxiety and we talk about these issues that people are having with anxiety, the key things what I try to tell people to do is don't be upset about feeling anxious. That's your body trying to tell you something is wrong. Now
Hmm.
the question becomes, what are you going to do about it? And unfortunately, in our society, you know what most people do? When they get home and they're exhausted, they get right on their phones. They start clicking on their phones. They get distracted. So they never deal with the issues. So we watch TV. Now we got Netflix that'll let you go from one episode to the next, and you don't even have to stop. So you can binge watch TV and you can spend hours watching TV and never deal with the issues that are in your life. And
So we
so,
numb it. It's our drug.
we
All these
yeah,
things
it
become our
is.
drug.
Yes. And so either we get binge TV or you get the other extreme where people are so busy. Like people can be so busy that they don't allow themselves time to deal with their issues. So you find it when you see people who are perfectionists or those people pleasers who are constantly hitting everybody, who can't say no to anybody. Those people are, and I know I'm the pot calling the kettle black because I can hear my wife saying in the background, I know you ain't talking, but but those people, and what happens is in life, we get so consumed with these ideals that the only time our body has a way to tell us something is wrong is right before bedtime. That's why we have so many sleeping disorders, sleeping problems in this country, because people's minds won't shut off. That's what everybody keeps telling me. I said, well, your mind won't shut off because you won't listen to it. If we
You know what I
actually,
do sometimes, Dr.
yeah,
Coleman? I just go in a room and just be still and be
that's
quiet
right.
with nothing
That's
and
right.
just in quiet. And it's amazing.
Hmm.
It's almost like just a big exhale, and it's just so relaxing and surreal to just empty the mind and not think of things. And I'm like you just said, sometimes when I have the intention of like, I'm not gonna do this, I'm just gonna sit here and be quiet. Then all of a sudden this thought will come in, oh, you need to do this. And I really have to say, okay, no, I'm not gonna give in to that. I'm gonna
Hmm.
sit here and just allow myself to just be in this state of peacefulness, because it's like your mind is on overload all the time.
It is. It is. And it's on overload because guess what? You make it on overload because you're multitasking. You're doing too many things
Yeah,
and you don't know how to slow
that's
down.
overrated.
See, and that's what, well, you weren't designed to do that. And that's the problem. And so, well, you brought up a good point. If we talk about things you can do to fix anxiety, like practical things, and I always tell people I like mnemonics because that way people can remember. It's called take your meds, MEDS. So you already talked about one. You sit in a room. That's called mindfulness. Mindfulness meditation is one of the hallmark treatments for anxiety and even depression, because all of us have watched a movie. And if you watch a really good movie, you get wrapped up in that movie. You have emotions
Hmm.
with that movie. But we
Yeah,
all know that movie isn't real, but those emotions feel real. And so, what the thing that when you sit and you allow yourself to just sit with your thoughts without judging them, what you'll learn is that your mind will go all over the place. But just because your mind goes all over the place, that doesn't mean that's you. See, too many people
gotcha.
equate whatever their mind does with them. They don't know how to separate the two. And so, what I try to teach my clients is what you did with mindfulness meditation. It's not about making your mind be quiet, it's about observing and seeing, man, I'm not even trying to think about all these crazy things. And I just ran all over the place. Wow.
Yeah,
And when you realize that, then you stop taking ownership and saying that these thoughts are me, because they're not. They're just thoughts. And see, here's the problem what people don't realize. How many of us sit around every minute and journal how fast we breathe every day? Nobody really. And if they do,
mm-mm.
they need to be in inpatient treatment. Uh, and nobody sits around and keeps
Gotcha.
account on how their heart beats every minute either. They
Mm-mm.
don't. But we all sit around and get pissed off for doing his job. His job is to protect us first and foremost. And the way it protects us is by surveying everything going on in our environment to figure out where's the danger. That's his primary job. Where's the danger? Let's either fight the danger, run from the danger, or we're going to freeze and pretend like the danger can't see us until it gets away. So it's
Well,
fight,
look,
flight, or freeze.
let's talk about this, because you said something about how we're always achieving, or we multitasking,
Mhm.
and that's what you get reward. On your job, it's the grind.
That's right.
A lot of these things we have taken on, like we're working, we're hustling. It's killing
That's right.
us. It is
It
literally
is.
killing us both ways, emotionally and physically, because you're going to have all this disease. I audit charts, and I'm
Mhm.
thinking, I'm looking at all these young folks. I'm like, oh
Mhm.
my God,
That's right.
you're 31, you've already had a colectomy.
That's right.
That means the majority of your intestines is gone. And they
That's right.
generally is tied to stress. They usually have
That's right.
anxiety disorder. And I'm like, what is going on with all of these young people?
Well,
So,
like I said, it goes back to the priorities. What is your vantage point on life? What is your viewpoint on life? What is what is your compass? And if your compass is materialism, if your compass is status, if your compass is the what the American dream tells you, the fancy house, car, and all that stuff, then you will never be at peace. Because guess what? Every time you get up here, somebody else just went up above you. So now you got to reset and keep trying to adjust. And you never see people get satisfied. You know, the funniest thing in the world, I look back, is we used to buy the kids stuff for Christmas. And one of the craziest things were we buy some big fancy thing and it comes in this big box. The kids would spend the whole freaking day playing in the box. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, man, I just spent all this money on this device and they playing with a box, you know,
That's
and but
wild.
yeah, but
Oh,
the thing is, you know, you really have to work on it starts with your mindset. That's what I tell people. And same thing with depression, same thing with anxiety, same thing with heart disease. If you like goes back to that ACE study, and I know we keep harping on it. I do harp on it because I want people to really get this. If
take the
you grew
ACE
up in a
study.
home that if you grew up in a home that had trauma, and trauma is not where you are sexually abused like most people think. Trauma is issues of rejection, abandonment, and verbal abuse. Those are the main traumas that cause a lot of problems. And a really good book I would challenge everyone to read is called Complex PTSD by Pete Walker. And basically it's about how just everyday things in your childhood can impact you. And it's scary that people don't realize because most of us function 95% I think is what people say we function on subconscious. We don't really think about things. We have been conditioned to live a certain way from our upbringing. And that thing started, and here's the scary part what people don't realize. You know, our brain and our spinal cord, and I'm not going to go too far in the weeds on this, Val, but when, when, when the egg and the sperm united and those cells start developing into us, along the way, you know, the outside of the cells that are forming this fetus, it's taking in all the stimuli from the mother. And at about, I think, the 17th, about 4 weeks to 6 weeks, the neural tube, which the part on the outside of your cells, it turns inward and it creates your spine and your spinal cord. So when you are a baby, before you're like when you're just cells, in order for you to figure out how to live outside of your mother's womb, those cells are figuring out how and what your mother is dealing with. And it is feeding it
Mm,
and teaching it from a very young age. We're talking about 4 to 6 weeks. It's telling it that the environment you finna grow up in is this way. So let's get prepared on how we gonna handle it. Now the issue is what kind of environment are these kids growing up in? Because if their homes are messed up, guess what? They have been pre-programmed at a very young age, even before you can see the heartbeat. We're talking 4 to 6 weeks. They're getting pre-programmed based on the environment they're going to be brought up in.
well, let me
And
ask
that's
you this,
scary.
Dr. Coleman, because you made me think about this. Okay, and we're talking about, we're trying to achieve the American dream. However, what about these parents that just are forced pushing their kids to be the best, achieve? Because I was real a big proponent for my kids. I was like, y'all get one time to be a child. Now I wanted them to do their best, but if they came in and made a C or even a D, sometimes, okay, oh, what's going on? I didn't flip out and was ready to
Well,
kill them or
here's
stuff.
here's the problem that people don't realize. You got to find a balance. Do you know who has 6 times the highest, 6 times the normal suicide rate? And we know suicide is up in kids, right? The group of
Yes.
kids that have 6 times the highest rate are kids from Silicon Valley, two-parent homes where the average income is $280,000.
Mm.
6 times the normal rate of suicide. Those kids that have everything, those kids who are in the top 1%, those kids who are in two-parent homes, those are the kids that have 6 times the national average for suicide.
Wow.
So it goes back to what we're talking about. What is your compass?
So basically, we're out here trying to achieve a status where those folks that have achieved the status are not happy and they're taking their
And their
own
kids are
lives.
dying. Yeah.
Nine.
So we
God.
think they got it going on. All you got to do is Google this stuff, look it up. I forgot the study. If I, Valton, I mean, I try to, but if you Google it, look it up. It's in the Silicon Valley. Those kids 6 times national suicide rate, and it's scary that that's what we're pursuing, and we're so
Okay. Got
blinded
another
that we
question.
don't get it. Sure.
We got another question here. So this person said the way that we were raised has an impact on how we're trying to relate to teens, especially older teens. Because you're getting that balance. You're trying to give them some freedom, but also let them know you ain't grown
Hmm.
yet. So in these teens, they're flexing their independence on how we can help them navigate and taking things away and removing technology and social media, all those negative messages. How do you navigate that with a older teen? Because sometimes that don't work with them. What do you? How do you
Well, see,
navigate?
see, here's the problem. That's a difficult space because you're going to probably need to go get counseling because usually you got to start young because by the time they become teenagers, their minds are starting to become set. Just being honest, and that's a difficult age, and that's why I told those two books, IGN and Hold On to Your Kids, because there are things you can still do with your teenagers. You need to get them in counseling, and you really need to get them with a counselor that can really relate to them and help them to understand because a lot of times these teens are rebelling against their parents and I don't know, every home situation is different. It goes back to what I said. These kids are starting to develop even in the mother's womb. Kids, kids start programming themselves and figuring out life from the time they're in the womb. So whatever's going on in that home, all the way up to their teenage years, is shaping them. And here's the
Well,
problem what people don't
oh
realize.
Lord.
Here's the problem what people don't realize. The biggest influencer of teens is their peers. Their peers. So who are they hanging out with? What are the type of people there? I read a thing the other day and I was like, oh my God. And if I could go back in time, you take things for granted. You think that if you raise them right and all this and that, but no, no, no. Teens, friends have a huge influence on them. So
Yeah.
most people don't realize that. And you need to be mindful of the type of people that your teens are hanging with because that's telling you what's going on in your child.
Well, you know what? No, now let's talk. Let's down on that. Now, fortunately for me, my house was the hangout house. However, when they're at school and at the other extracurricular activities, that's really challenging, especially in the world we live in now. Of course, when I
Mhm.
grew up, everybody knew everybody. And I'm sure Valter can say this, even in Birmingham being a bigger city, because we had our village, you still had people that knew you
Mhm.
in some way and they could report back to your parents if something happened or went down. So, how do you go about in today's society? For number one, knowing your kids' friends because of technology and everything. How do you get there? How do you even get to know these folks?
Well, here's the thing. You talk about your kids have hangouts at your house.
Mm-hmm.
Those kids, before your kids can go hang out at their home, they need to come to your home. You need to know them. One of the things my daughter talks about my wife all the time. She's like, these folks' parents ain't like you. Because before our kids could go somewhere, she need to know who their parents are.
That was me. I mean, I
You
was
know,
like that too, but
but
all
okay,
parents aren't.
okay, but Val, the issue is, what do you do different? You need to take
Yeah,
ownership and realize, okay, what homes are these kids coming from that your kids are hanging with?
yeah.
You
And,
got to
and
know
like,
that.
who are their parents?
That's right. You need to know those kind of informations, and a lot of folks don't. But we living in a society, but you can't blame it on that because here's the problem. You know, we talking about in many cases young parents having kids, raising kids. Who taught them to be parents?
Yep,
I mean, it's just being
gotcha.
real. Who taught them to be parents? We got my grandmama when she was alive. She got on everybody, mama, kids. It don't matter. These grandmamas now in the clubs. I mean, I'm just being honest.
Well,
Grandmamas in the
yeah,
clubs,
they
and so
young, yeah.
grandmamas ain't grandmamas no more. And so there is no moral compass trying to help. There's no big mamas trying to teach these young parents how to be parents. And so that's where, like I said, mentoring programs, getting these kids, the best thing you can do for these boys, because many of these boys, especially these boys, they don't have a male figure in their home. And that's a driving factor of problems because they got testosterone. I tell you, I remember when my teenage son tried to buck up at my wife. He was at that age where he thought, he was getting big. And I had to show him one time that no son, you ain't big yet. But that's what boys do though. I mean, honestly, that's boys. They're getting a whole rush of testosterone. Their brains aren't fully developed. Boys' brains don't develop till they're about 27. So when you expect a boy to be a lot more mature than what he is, well, you the problem. Boys aren't mature. They just got a lot more testosterone and they get big quick. And
Okay, can we
so
take a station break right there? Y'all, welcome to Conversations on the Val and Val Show. We have Dr. Demel Coleman talking about the calm and the sea of anxiety. However, the station break is for ladies. Hear ye, hear ye. Hear ye, hear ye. 27 today. It might be 38 tomorrow and 48 the next day. So know that. Know that. Okay, that's what I just want to put that plug out there. I just want to put that plug out there. When you don't understand why your 57-year-old husband, he is actually only 30.
now
He
Val,
is actually,
she going too far. Ain't she?
well, that's because my husband is 57. I would say he's only 30. He's only 30.
But
But
on a serious
okay,
note, though,
yeah.
these kids, especially these boys that's having a lot of issues, they need to really seek out mentors for these boys. They got to find mentor programs and get them involved in it. Because a lot of times, I read this book where this doctor one time he got to a place where his son wouldn't listen to him, and he knew that. He knew that's just a natural process. So what he would do is he would go in the community and find other men and get these men to pay
Hmm.
these men to take his son out and do stuff with him so that they can impart stuff in him, because they would be more likely to receive from somebody else that wasn't his father than it would be from
Hmm.
him. And so that's where the whole issue of really getting them involved in some mentor, especially teenagers, you got to get
Yeah.
them involved.
Even my son, Cameron, now, he have male mentors that we sought out because, they do get to the point where they think your parent, you don't know nothing, you
That's right.
old fashioned, you trying to hold me back. No, I'm trying to guide you in the right way and keep you alive, definitely in this society. And look, y'all, he been living on his own. What is it been 30 days? Yeah, he don't figured out a lot of stuff in 30
So,
days. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
So, I mean, when you talk about stress and the stress of growing up, that's where the whole issue of, you really got to work on their mindset. That's where reading books, finding books for them to read, finding different people. That's all mindset. That's all things to help them to understand how to deal with these stressors that they're facing in life. And the other thing you talked about earlier, the meditation, the mindfulness meditation, that's another key thing for helping with anxiety. People really need to learn how to meditate. That's doing yoga. They got so many free things on YouTube
Hmm.
that people can do. And all these things have been shown, and especially with kids, even kids need to start doing this because they're under so much pressure to fit in that it is overwhelming for them. And between fitting in with a group and the whole issue of stress of social media, that is a lot. And we really have
Yeah.
to help them to, because what happens, you create these thought patterns, these cognitive distortions, and you create these patterns that just overwhelm you. Like you could just be sitting there and you, because of your issues, you're going to jump to conclusions and start reading people's minds and assuming somebody's mistreating you when they may not be talking about you, or you're going to be catastrophizing. Every time something bad happens, you blow it all out of proportion. So all these things fit into why anxiety becomes such a problem for these young teenagers, because they haven't matured enough to understand how to regulate their thoughts. And sadly, a lot of adults haven't learned how to regulate their thoughts. It's the same thing. And the thing with these adults, we assume people, because they're old enough, they should understand. What people don't realize, a lot of adults have been traumatized because of their upbringing. And
Well,
so,
let's talk about those negative thoughts because that's something you have listed. You call them automatic negative thoughts, ants.
right, ants. Because I use the analogy ants because I read that from Dr. Daniel Amen out of his book. He's got a podcast called the Warrior's Way or something like that. But it was pretty neat because when you think about ants, they go all over the place in the house. Your house will be infested when you can't stand seeing ants all in your kitchen. And that's how negative thoughts are. And so what happens when we grow up in homes and stuff, we become conditioned. And the things, and it goes back to one of my old saying, more is caught than taught. We are
Gotcha.
conditioned in the home environments, and we hear things over and over again, and we see things. And so when we get in environments and things happen, if we grew up in a negative home environment, The first thing that's going to happen if we make a mistake, we're going to think that these people think I'm stupid or I'm just stupid. And it's like, that's your automatic go to, that you're stupid because you made a mistake. How is that going to help you in that situation? Or, oh, they don't like me because, they don't like me. Why don't they like you? Well, I could tell by the way they looked at me. How do you know that? But it's because of the homes that they grew up in and the stuff that they dealt with, that becomes their norm, that they automatically go there. And it's just like, it's not even, it's more of a reaction than a response. And that's the important thing of helping people to understand, that they have to understand that because of the things in their past, that they are conditioned to react a certain way. And if they don't learn how to slow down, take a pause, and here's some things that somebody can do when you know that you can feel yourself getting worked up. Some simple things you can do is take a deep breath. Go to the bathroom. I've done this before. Go in the bathroom, sit, close the stall, sit. You can sit on top of it. I ain't telling this, and just take some deep breaths, slow deep breaths. Because the reason why you want to take deep breaths, you want to stimulate your vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve, if you're driving in the car, the gas is stress. The brake is your parasympathetic nervous system. And to stimulate that, you stimulate your vagus nerve. And to stimulate your vagus nerve, you have to do deep breaths. So you can either take a deep breath in, just take a deep breath in your nose, count to 3 as you do it, hold it for 4 seconds, and blow out like you're blowing out of a straw for a count of 6. I tell all my clients to do this. That way you can instantly kind of shut down that limbic system and give your frontal lobe a chance to really think about instead of just reacting. Another thing you can do after you've done that is just go turn the water on and wash your hands in some warm water, because the warm water will it's like soothing. So just sit there and wash your hands in some warm water, and it will help you get more present and calm down as well. If you're at home, you can do what is called diaphragmatic breathing, where you lay down, put a book on your belly, and take some deep breaths and watch the book rise and watch it fall. Watch it rise, watch it fall. Those are ways to get out of that immediate anxiety state, so that you can hopefully get to a place to be able to process and challenge these thought patterns that are getting you caught in this cycle over and over again. And once you can do that, then you can actually challenge your thoughts. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by challenging your thoughts. So I'm the oldest. And so one of the things I learned growing up is you take care of everybody else, right? So I'm the oldest and biologically, so now I married my wife who's the youngest. So we're different. We have different strengths, different weaknesses. And so one of the things that happened is, when I was going through my intermittent fasting phase, and I would stop eating at a certain time. And so she would cook whatever she wants to cook. And so whenever she cooked stuff that I didn't eat, I would just cook like shrimp or asparagus on that day. Well, we had gone to the grocery store that weekend, so we had a bunch of groceries already. And so she was cooking meatloaf. And it was like 5:32-ish around that time. And I didn't eat past 6. And so I forgot that I did not get the shrimp and asparagus. And I'm like, oh crap. Now, the normal thing, the Publix is like 3 minutes from my house. Normal person would just go to the Publix, get the shrimp and asparagus, and come back, right? Well, the way I was conditioned, you always think about others. The thought of me going to the grocery store for just me bothered me. Now, I can say that now because I journal and I look back and over stuff, but it bothered me because that's not the way I was conditioned. That was selfish to me. That was wrong. Now, that sounds crazy,